Hello everyone and welcome to this session on useful pandas methods. Today we will be looking at the pandas cut method. We will be starting off by looking at the documentation of the cut method in the official pandas documentation. So the pandas cut method is used to segment or separate and sort values in a continuous set of data into discrete intervals, bins or categories, right? So a good example of this would be something like dividing a list of or a sequence of ages into different age groups, or maybe a sequence of incomes into income brackets, etc. We can define the intervals, we can define the labels for these intervals, and we can do all of that using the pandas cut method, right? So we will be talking about the cut method itself and some of the most common parameters being used. Let's go back and see one of the examples. So here we have a data set containing the names of people and their ages. Let's try to see what that looks like as a data frame. So very simple, straightforward data frame with a name column and an age column. Now what if we wanted to categorize these people into certain categories depending on their ages? We can do that with the cut method. Let's start off with a simple example. Let's define the intervals that we want to divide them into. Now we can do that using the bins parameter or the bin parameter in the cut method, right? So what we can do is we already have the data set here. Let's start off by just seeing what the cut method does and how it looks like, or how the output looks like. So let's do a pd.cut. You will see that this method is not applied on top of the data frame itself. It is a separate individual method, and you have to pass it the sequence of data that you need to separate out into different bins. So here we are trying to categorize the ages. So we will pass it the column age or the series age, and we will try to first divide this into equidistant intervals, right? So let's give it the number of intervals that we want to divide it into. So let's say we want to divide it into maybe 4, and let's execute this. So here what it does is dot cut method will give you a result, and it will give you the intervals that it has created based on the data that we passed it. So we passed it the ages and the interval. So it has divided the ages into specific intervals, right? And it also gives you all the list of categories or intervals down here. How will you use this as a part of the data frame itself? So what we can do is we can add a fresh column called age group, and we can assign the output of the pandas cut method and connect it to the data frame itself. So pd.cut followed by df the age column within the data frame, followed by bins equals 3, and we will print out the data frame itself. So here what it has done is it has now checked all the ages and categorized them into the specific intervals that we wanted it to be a part of, right? Here the intervals themselves are also like numbers or notations, but let's say we want to divide the ages into a custom set of intervals that we have defined, and we also do not want these notations to show up because these are confusing. Let's try defining custom intervals and adding labels. How do we do that? Let's just quickly take this example again so that we are not overwriting older data. So defining the pandas data set again. We have the names and ages. This time let's define bins as a sequence. So your bins can either be an integer, which is equidistant intervals themselves, or a list of values, each of which is defining the upper and lower ranges of each interval, right? So let's say we divide it into 18, 0 to 18, 18 to 35, 35 to 50, and 50 to 100, right? So these are the ages that we want. What if we want to add a label or a title to each of these categories or intervals? You can do that using the labels parameter. So let's define a sequence again. Your labels parameter will take a sequence of strings, which will be, let's say, a child, that is 0 to 18, a young adult, a middle-aged person, and a senior person, right? These don't have to be accurate, we're just dealing with examples. So once these have been defined, let's now try adding a column called age group again with these specific intervals and these specific labels. So let's do df age group as a fresh column and assign it the output of the cut method. What are we doing again? We are supplying it the age column. We are giving it bins equals the sequence bins that we've already defined, and the labels as a sequence that we've already defined. Now let's see the output. Right. So you'll see that the age group is now the labels that we've defined, and the young adult is basically representing the interval from 18 to 35, right? So which is why Alice is a young adult, Bob is a young adult, Charlie is a senior, David is a middle-aged person, and Eve is a child who is anywhere between 0 to 18. So this is basically how you would probably use pd.cut as a quick way to categorize the sequence of data that you have within your data frame. Thank you for joining. See you later.